Well, hello, everybody. It is happening. The cull of the larger species that could do some damage to people that people want back. And now they don't because they're a nuisance to them. This is the fun part. Hey, this is how you know conservation's working at least. This is a good way to know. Wisconsin officials add recommendations to new management plans to keep wolf population around 1,000. Madison, Wisconsin. Wisconsin wildlife officials released a revised draft wolf management plan Tuesday that recommends holding the statewide population to around 1,000 animals. A concession to conservatives looking for a hard limit. The Department of Natural Resources adopted a wolf management plan in 1999 that calls for capping the statewide population at 350 wolves. The population has roughly tripled since then, leading the occasional wolf attack on pets, hunting dogs, and livestock. Hunters and farmers have pointed to the 350 animal limit as justification for generous killing quotas, angering animal rights activists. The department released a draft of a new wolf management plan in November. The proposal didn't include a hard population goal, instead recommending that advisory committees monitor local wolf populations and decide whether to reduce them, maintain them, or allow them to grow. The draft wasn't well received by hunters, farmers, and GOP legislators. State Representative Chance Green and Senator Rob Staffsholt introduced a bill in March that would require the DNR to set a statewide population goal in its new plan. The measure has not yet got a hearing. So, this is the one thing that I can't stand about the GOP. I know this is not a political channel, but like, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I tend to be a conservative person, but that doesn't mean I agree with. I just I mean, shoot, I would vote for Robert F. Kennedy before a lot of people. Like, I don't like everything he says, but I think that's the way you should look at everything. You judge the individual based on the individual, not what is next to their name. But with that being said, I tend to agree with, like, for the most part with the conservative side, but then they do stuff like this with the environment where it's like they would rather, like, I'm all for hunting. I think that, and I don't know. I think we just need to live alongside wolves. I think they're, if they come and attack you, that you should be able to kill them. But otherwise, leave it alone. And they're like hard limit. We want this. We want this. I mean, let it be as natural as possible before you have to intervene. Is what I think. Um, but of course, when you start expanding out in other areas and there's less places for these animals to go. I mean, I know these farmers are in rural areas, but like, you know, the less places they have to live, the more likely they're going to impact you. If you live on the outskirts, because you get closer to that. Even if you're not in the main city, you're still spreading out into what used to be wild territory. The plan, the DNR unveiled Tuesday, still doesn't get a hard population goal, but it does include a chart laying out recommendations on when to reduce the statewide population, when it would be considered stable, and when to let it grow. If the numbers of wolves fall below 799, wildlife officials should look to grow the statewide population, according to the plan. If the population stands at 800 to 999 wolves, the population can grow or be considered stable. If the population stands at between 1,100 and 1,199 wolves, the population would be considered stable or could be reduced. The number of animals grows to 1,200 or more, the population should be reduced. This approach is expected to generally maintain statewide wolf abundance and distribution at levels comparable to recent years, Randy Johnson, a DNR large carnivore specialist who wrote the plan, said during a news conference. The better question is, can we make good decisions on the information we have? I think we're in a good place here. The new draft retains provisions from the original that call for reducing the window for registered wolf kills from 24 hours to 8 hours and issuing hunting license for specific wolf management zones. Right now, wolf licenses are valid in any of the state's 6 zones. The DNR's policy board is expected to vote in October on whether to adopt the management plan. Green and Staff Schultz, the Republican lawmakers who authored the bill mandating a hard population goal, didn't immediately respond to emails seeking comment on the new draft. Rob Bowman and Joe Weiss, chairperson and vice chairperson at the Wisconsin Conservation Congress, a group of influential hunters and anglers that advise the DNR on the policy, also didn't immediately respond to emails. So, I mean, it's a lot of bureaucratic nonsense, as always. I mean, okay. The last wolf hunt was in February 2021. So, like, they already let a little bit of hunting happen, but you let a population of something grow that is something like a wolf, which is like potentially dangerous to humans. It's like alligators, all these other things. If it's potentially dangerous to humans, we got to cull that population. Yep, that's it. I mean, this is the way it works. You either play God or you don't. You either do something about it or you leave it alone. There's no other options. But when the doing something about it side comes in two forms. Kill them all because, you don't see any benefit of having them and all they do is kill people. That's what we used to do. We used to just wipe out a population of something. Anyone we saw, we didn't care about the numbers. We didn't care if they were alive or around or whatever. We didn't know the difference. We didn't care. That's why so many animals went extinct in like the 17 and 1800s and early 1900s. It's because we just didn't care what happened to animals because we didn't realize how integral and difficult some what role these animals had to play in our ecosystem. So we just killed them. And by the time we realized, in the basically the mid 1900s, we probably shouldn't do that because we're finding out that even something as simple as a mosquito has a huge bearing on what happens in the world when it comes to wildlife and nature, and we need the balance. And so we started even protecting animals that would kill people, like bears, wolves, mountain lions. Back in the 70s or 90s, I think there was only like 30 Florida panthers left. Now there's no Florida panthers left because they're interbred with Texas cougars and they're a little bit bigger, and it's just they're just Texas cougars now. But point being is that those animals have made a rebound too. Alligators in the 70s were almost wiped out. Now they're very well off. These things take time to get bounced back, but when they do, it's been enough of a gap where people have just expanded exponentially. So now that these animals are on their way back, you can't look at old times and be like, well, back in the 30s, their population was this. Well, it doesn't matter what the population was because we have people around now in those areas where they used to live. So you either manage them properly, so that they don't interact with people and they keep their part of the ecosystem in check, or because we also keep their food in check. Anything from birds to deer, those populations are relatively kept in check, and otherwise they do so well on their own, especially deer, that these animals will always have enough food in certain areas. There's not a concern about that. It's not like they have to worry about overpopulation. So, we don't want I don't know. It's, again, all us playing God. But that's what we do that on a daily basis. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. Just think that you need to have a little consistency. So, all these places around the country are trying to bring their wolf population up. Well, then people need to understand that if they want to live in a certain type of society, these people that are crying about the wolves and the bears being hunted are the same people who will immediately get an alligator taken out of their community neighborhood if it was living in a pond. They would immediately call for a nuisance gator trapper. because it would be right there, and they would, have to deal with that situation. So those are the people I've noticed, at least the ones that fight against it. That it's only because it's far away, not something they have to deal with. But at the same time, you got to deal with that animal that would be in your backyard if you believe that way. So I can understand both sides. Anyway, let me know what you think down below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.